the biggest clowns that try to talk about transitioning and trans issues are the cisgendered gay men.
For my gays out there, here's how to take advantage of being gay to get a job.
I'm a non-binary, bisexual, learning specialist and teacher. These are the conversations that you're very afraid of.
And if you are a cis person, you absolutely, how dare you have the audacity to think that you know what the trans means?
All right, Clarkson, it's time for the final part of the show, everybody's favorite, where we react to woke LGBT TikToks and try not to lose too many brain cells in the process. Are you ready?
I don't know. I feel like I've already lost a lot today, but we're gonna get through it.
So I am processing some things today, so here is a rant. If you are trans, you know if you are trans. If you are trans, you cannot determine if other people are trans, because only they know if they are trans. And if you are a cis person, you absolutely, how dare you have the audacity to think that you know what the trans means, or that you know what trans people are, or what the trans experience is. No one chooses to be trans because it's trendy or because it's fun. Being trans is fucking hard. And I have so many feelings about this. So many feelings. Anyway, all this to say that anyone who tries to tell you what the your gender identity is needs to off.
Mom, come get me. I'm scared. The trans experience, he talks about it like it's Disney World. What is the trans experience? I can't do
Here's the thing. I'm also not a cat, but I know what a cat is, and I'm able to determine if someone is a cat or not.
Right. There is such thing as objective truth. And also what he said, which really annoys me about these people, he's like, it's hard being trans. It's effing hard. But they also refuse to acknowledge how addicting and how addicting the victim complex is that being trans gives you. And yes, it may be hard to be trans, but there are a lot of people who are grabbing onto this label because they like the mental privileges that it gives them, because they can blame pretty much everything in their life on being trans. And then they also get this special status within society, this victim status that they can now use in social situations. So it's not, you can't just sit here and say, yes, well, being trans is hard, so nobody would ever choose to be trans, therefore somebody could never be lying, when that's just not the case. Trans people get a lot of privileges socially in our society compared to the average straight person.
Yeah, I definitely think it can be hard to be trans in real life, but on the internet, it is rewarded. It is absolutely rewarded, especially on TikTok. And I do find it interesting that this person says, how dare anybody question your gender identity? Let's take that to its logical extreme. So can I tell this person that my pronouns are the N-word? That's my pronoun. You have to say it. You have to say it, refer to me as that. And who are you to question my gender identity? Obviously not. Obviously that's absurd. But they really, I think this is a weaponization tactic they use to shut down debate on these issues. Because guess what, babe? Making some assumptions here. You're also not a billionaire, but something tells me you have feelings on the proper taxation of billionaires, right? That's kind of how this whole democracy thing works. But when it's convenient for them, only the affected people can speak up about an issue. But when it's not convenient, when it's them popping off about everything under the sun, of course, that's fine. That's allowed.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. If my opinions on trans people aligned with his, then my opinion would be totally valid. But because they don't, suddenly, oh gosh, you're cis. You don't get to have an opinion. And it doesn't make any sense. But I can't expect these people to make much sense. So, I mean...
But what do we know?
Yeah.
We're just cis white gays, which in 2024 are basically the devil, according to these TikTokers, apparently.
In relation to my last video, the biggest clowns that try to talk about transitioning and trans issues are the cisgendered gay men that are like, as a gay man, no. No, you don't get a talk. Your identity as a cisgendered gay man gives you zero credibility to talk about transitioning and trans issues, okay? So if you see a cisgendered gay man saying, I was a gay man, and then say some transphobic shit, just know that their opinion is invalid because they can't have like an actual credible opinion on transitioning and trans issues.
Since when does identity give you a credible opinion? That I don't get it. It's like, so if I was trans, no matter what my opinion is, it's credible.
I'm old enough to remember when knowledge and intelligence gave you a credible opinion, not what box you check on the fucking census.
Right. Logic and reason are what make opinions credible. It's not even the person who says it that makes an opinion credible. And that's what I don't get here. How can you look at somebody and say, oh, well, you don't have this specific characteristic, your opinion is invalid? When what? I genuinely try every day. I try every day to understand these people, but I have no idea what goes on in their brains, if anything. I have no idea. What is he talking
it's like that
about?
Buzz Lightyear meme, no signs of life detected.
Right. Like at some point when we're reacting to these, we just have to be like, what is going on? Like, what is happening in their brain? I mean, I don't know if the pink hair dye seeped in there.
It's always the hair dye. It's always the CVS hair dye.
Oh my God. I thought at least he'd have like the blonde frosted tips like the last one, but the pink, I guess that's all you need nowadays to be trans.
So the thing is, this person, I have a couple issues with it, but it's like, all right, if you think gay people don't have a right to speak on trans issues, well then take your tea and make your own letter and stop riding our acceptance and riding our coattails and conflating us all when it's for your benefit. But now we can't speak when it's our view on your side of the party. No, like that doesn't make sense. That's inconsistent.
And these are the same people who will sit in our comment sections and say, Black trans women of color gave you your rights. You owe us everything. Blah, blah, blah. And then in that same breath, they won't even acknowledge the gay people who have opened the door for the T to be added to the alphabet. So yes, we can have an opinion, babes.
And also a lot of gay people, this isn't my experience, but I've spoken to a lot of gay people who grew up gender non-conforming and who were tomboys or tom girls or whatever, or very effeminate young men. And now, and they went through puberty and ended up being totally comfortable with their sex, but same-sex attracted, but gay. And now they look back and they're like, holy crap, under today's crazy culture and standards, I would have been transitioned, and that totally wouldn't have been necessary. And so, of course, those people have the right to speak on this just as much as you do.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, when I grew up, I had two older sisters. I would wear their dresses. I had a little buzz cut. I'd be in my mom's makeup. And this sounds really bad, but they used to call me a little girl with cancer because I looked like cancer. Like, that's what they would call me because I would only wear girls' clothes. And I look at this and I get worried for the youth of our generation, for the youth that will end up being gay, who are gonna, wake up one day and realize they don't have breasts anymore because they took them off when they were 14 and they'll never be able to breastfeed their child, or they stopped their puberty and otherwise had a very weird childhood that's affected them psychologically that they can't get back. And it worries me. So we have every right to have opinions on trans issues when the trans issues start to affect us in ways like this. And even if they didn't affect us, we still have every right
that's
to have
literally
opinion because we're an individual.
I'm sure this person has opinions on Israel-Palestine, right? And guess what, babe? From as far as I know, you're not Israeli or Palestinian. You've never stepped foot in that country, right? So that's literally how a democracy works, is people all have opinions on society and government, and they're not more or less legitimate because of their immutable characteristics. In fact, that's a fundamentally bigoted thing to suggest. Look,
right.
I'm really sick of this, but what are we to say anything? We're just the evil cis white gays. But it might help us get a job, Clarkson. So take a listen to this one.
For my gays out there, here's how to take advantage of being gay to get a job. And I'm not just talking any job, I'm talking prestigious, 6 figures. This is the secret: diversity programs. I googled gay recruiting program NYC Bank, And the first thing that pops up is an entire long ass list of every single bank that has a diversity program, and it's pretty much every prestigious bank. The reason I know this is the key is because I've done it not once, but twice. My sophomore and junior year internships I got just for being gay, and then my junior year I got a return offer, so it turned into a full-time role. Let me paint a picture for you of how much easier it is to get into one of these big companies through a diversity program. A normal recruiting cycle would be like 5 rounds of interviews. You're talking like case studies, technical interviews, like market evaluations, whole nine. When I recruited at a big New York City bank for my junior year internship, I had 2 things to do. One was like a conference, which was literally just sitting there and listening to people talk. The other was 2 30-minute behavioral interviews. It was like as easy as it possibly could have been, because these companies get slammed for having a lack of diversity and they're still way behind where they should be, so they need the gays. So if you enter the recruiting process and you're like, hey, I'm gay, they will make it easier for you and you'll have a much higher chance of getting the job.
Imagine your entire career being banked on the fact that you sleep with men. That is so embarrassing.
I would be so embarrassed to admit this. And he's like, oh my God, let me tell you about this cool thing. No, babe, you should be deeply ashamed of this. You just admitted that you scammed the system, exploited affirmative action to get jobs you didn't deserve because you can't cut it on your merit, and had to ride unrelated, irrelevant demographic characteristics to career success. And you're acting like that's cool? No, that's embarrassing and a pathetic sign of how much wokeness has infected business, that they're actually making hiring decisions about who you love at home in your personal life rather than, are you good at the job? Are you qualified? Like this is a sickness, and you're proudly boasting about exploiting it on TikTok. It baffles me. It disgusts me, honestly.
I mean, I have to say, like, I don't think he's exploiting the system at all. I think that he's taking advantage of it the way that it was supposed to be created. I mean, that's in essence what these diversity programs do, and we've allowed it. So what's to stop a gay person of taking advantage of it? In the same way that we have tax loopholes that, you know, if you can take advantage of a tax loophole, you're going to take advantage of it.
I would want to make it on my own merit. I wouldn't want to take advantage of that.
As an individual, I would as well. I just think, you know, people who take advantage of some parts of the system, it's not necessarily taking advantage of it to me. I think that our system is just backwards as hell. Sorry for the language. And that's where I take issue with it. Because, I mean, that's what these diversity programs do. That's what affirmative action does, is they take people who are otherwise unqualified and put them in these positions. And it's like, it's shocking to see someone so happy about it, because most people have enough self-respect to want to make it on their own merit. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is the culture and country that we've created in modern day America.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. I mean, the America I want to live in is where you succeed or thrive purely based on merit. Your sexuality, your skin color, your gender, these things don't hold you back like they used to. They shouldn't, right? You should never be denied a job because of who you are married to or because of what you look like or anything like that. But you shouldn't be given one. You shouldn't have a different process. Like, that's crazy.
Well, I mean, if you're not a beautiful person, you probably should be discriminated against if you're going to be a model. But I mean, that's a separate conversation.
Occupation, occupation specific. Like, obviously, it's fair to discriminate against the morbidly obese for professional sports, right? Like, but in general, especially with something like banking, none of that should matter. It should be about your merits, your education, your background, your connections. And I guess I kind of disagree with you that, like, I do think it's wrong for individuals to participate in evil systems. And I think...
Oh, I do too. I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong on an individual level for me, but I can't sit here and say that, like, I mean, I take advantage of a tax loophole that maybe I shouldn't get and that maybe be deemed unfair. So it's hard for me to sit here and
I get what you're saying.
Totally demonize this person.
I think we can agree, like, it shouldn't exist. I guess you know what? Kudos to this person, at least for the transparency, because what most people do is they do this, but then pretend like they got there all on their own merit.
Right. And then when we say this is what diversity programs are doing, everybody's like, no, that's not the case because nobody admits it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
That's like when Harvard was sued for affirmative action and went all the way to Supreme Court, and they're like, no, we don't have quotas or whatever. And then it came out in the wash. They literally basically had de facto quotas, and that you needed a difference of hundreds of points difference on the SAT to get in if you were Asian versus white versus black. Like, it was openly discriminatory. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. And I find it really unfortunate too, because it also stigmatizes the people that did get there on their merits. Like, what if, like, now, you know, people will see this video and then they see a gay person at their office the next day in corporate America, and they're like, I wonder if he's a diversity hire. And for all you know, that person did get hired on their merit. And now it creates this, you know, this cloud that hangs over everyone. And it's just a total attack on meritocracy. And it also like reinforces these things, this sexuality, the race, the gender, all of it, these kinds of things in the name of diversity. They further accentuate the meaningfulness of these categories. And when I think what we should want is for them to fade into irrelevance, like hair color or eye color. But when you're literally prioritizing people for jobs based on their sexuality, of course that's going to polarize groups of people along their sexuality. It's going to reinforce those differences. And I think even from a progressive perspective, that's not actually progressive at all.
No, I mean, it completely goes against equality. We're not fighting for equality anymore. We're fighting for privilege. This is a privilege of being gay. So, I mean, I'm just getting really tired of people saying that somehow, I mean, I guess if you're white and gay, you're not oppressed anymore because we're losing our oppression card. But just in essence that your sexuality, your skin color, and all of these different, you know, immutable characteristics somehow deem you to be oppressed in society when these programs are quite literally privileges. So if we're going to talk about privilege, I think we should start with the systems and the institutions we're creating that create privilege. And this is one based off of immutable characteristics.
All right, up next, this non-binary TikToker thinks all the concerns about LGBT indoctrination in school are total nonsense. Let's take a listen.
I'm a non-binary, bisexual, learning specialist and teacher. These are the conversations that you're very afraid of.
Are you a boy or a girl?
I was born a boy. Good question. Back to math, though.
Why do you wear makeup?
I like the way it makes me look. Pretty simple. Same reason why other people wear it.
Are you married? Do you have a girlfriend?
I can't answer that. That's personal information. It doesn't have to do with school.
Your makeup is pretty. Am I allowed to wear makeup?
Thanks for saying it's pretty. I'm not allowed to give you makeup at school. That's up to you and your parents.
Why does your makeup make you so, like, tan?
I'm actually black. I'm Italian and Nigerian. Good question.
Do I call you Mr. or Miss?
You could just call me Desmond, but in the end, I can't control what you call me. All jokes and reindeer antlers aside, the conversations that you're so worried about are very, very easy and very, very fast. Kids are not as confused as you think they are. I'm a guy who wears makeup. You want to call it non-binary gender fluid? Fine. And here's the kicker. Kids don't actually care about sexuality. They're not actually going to ask. And if they do, pretty simple to tell them that they've overstepped. And that's a personal matter that doesn't have anything to do with school. The indoctrination you're afraid of isn't real. I hope this helps.
Look, here's my thing about this video. If all non-binary or trans or LGBT teachers handled the questions this way, there would be no issue. They're really, like, nobody would have any grounds for complaints whatsoever. But on this show, we have played clip after clip after clip after clip of teachers teaching kindergartners about non-binary, they, them, gender neutral, the sexuality types, all this stuff that's inappropriate.
And I'm a preschool teacher. So instead of using Mr. or Miss, we use mix. One of my kiddos came up to me and he goes, "Are you mixed up?"
If my 5 to 7-year-old art students can correctly use they, them pronouns for their peers and accept non-binary kids without batting an eye, adults should fucking be able to do it.
I take every single student at face value, and I just immediately respect whatever they say. He, him, and I want to go by T-Rex. He's T-Rex for the rest of the year.
One of the kids referred to me as a girl, and one of my kids was like, "Jamie doesn't have a gender. Jamie's not a girl."
I like the way that has me is so emotional. She's 8. So awesome. That's just like so awesome.
So it's like this feels gaslighty to pretend that that's how all teachers handle it. If that was actually how all the teachers handled those questions, then there would be no problem. But that's not. Like, this might be how you handle it, but it's totally not how it's
Right.
handled all the time.
No, not at all. And I mean, I liked what this creator had to say. I liked the TikTok, but like you said, we've watched this. We've watched people on teachers say, "Call me Mix" instead of Mr. or Mrs. And then they have the flags in their classroom, and they're telling kids to choose their pronouns, and they're talking about gender identity and going into deep discussions that these kids are not ready for. And it's definitely not their business to do so. So no, that's not what's happening. Like, it's great that you have taken it upon yourself to be a responsible teacher and not, parent kids where you shouldn't, but that's not what's happening at all.
No, at least not in every case. We've seen many. It's really hard to know how common this stuff is. Like, we don't have survey data or anything, but we see video after video after video of people pushing openly ideological, really in the weeds stuff on all of these topics on kids in the classroom or whatever. I mean, we've reacted to children's cartoons created by governments that are telling little kids that there's no such thing as boys and girls. Like, obviously, not everybody's handling it the way that Desmond, this TikToker, is handling it, because if they all were, then there really wouldn't be an issue. But this stuff feels gaslighting because simultaneously they're making two claims at once. One is nobody's talking to kids about sexual orientation or gender identity in schools, but also laws that say you can't talk to kids about sexual identity and gender identity in schools are really bad. Well, if that was actually true, that nobody was talking about it, then the law wouldn't matter. You wouldn't care. Like, those two things can't really coexist.
No, then all of the concerns in these bills wouldn't be a problem. We'd be like, okay, that's fine because we're not doing that. But that hasn't been the reaction. So you're absolutely right. All
right, well, that's about as many LGBT TikToks as I can handle in one sitting without incurring permanent brain damage. I hope you got a kick out of it.
I need to go watch some football or something.
Anything else. But Clarkson, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. Everybody go sign up and check out his YouTube channel, and we'll have to have you on again soon. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Damage Control podcast. If you got this far, you must have found something interesting or insightful. So do like or comment with your thoughts, and do consider subscribing and sticking around. And with that, I'll see you all next week. But if you're not sick of me yet and you want more Damage Control content, you can go here or here to see other recent episodes you might just enjoy.